Walnut Point State Park is going through some changes, but it's all for the best.
Steve Nichols shows us through his lens the ongoing efforts by the IDNR to improve the habitat and the health of the lake and the fish.
The Illinois Department of Natural Resources does a lot of work behind the scenes to improve the wildlife habitat and resources. See, earlier this year we showed you some of the work being done at Walnut Point State Park to improve the fishing and the overall experience on the lake. And this lake's still a work in progress. One of those improvements is limiting the size and the number of fish being harvested.
Bluegill regulation, the best way to state it is it's 20 fish per day regulation. Of those 20 fish, only 5 maximum can be 8 inches or larger.
Limiting the size and the quantity of these little fish is not unheard of, but it's not really common either.
We have a long history back to 1987 of use of 3 different harvest strategies, one being no regulation, the other one being a minimum length regulation, and now we're using what we call a maximum length regulation to help improve the quality of the bluegill fishery. What we're seeing is a significant improvement in the number of big bluegill that are available to the anglers.
So, other anglers.
Other anglers, yeah. Relatively small, but with only a 5-fish limit over 8 inches, then we're preserving some of the quality fish in the population.
To make sure you're staying within the regulations, bring a simple little tool.
With this regulation, it's going to require you to measure some fish. So the best thing to do is for fishermen to bring some kind of a simple ruler or measuring board that it could just be, have a line scribed across it, so that they can measure their fish and know if they're within the legal limits or not. And that way they don't take a chance of having too many overs and running the risk of a $120 ticket.
So you can keep a bunch of tasty little bluegill, which actually help the lake.
And the idea is to thin out some of these smaller fish. That does two things. Allows them to grow faster because there's fewer of them sharing the food resources that are out here. And it allows the fishermen the opportunity to take some fish home to eat. What we found was that they started crowding under 8 inches because we weren't thinning out some of those smaller fish.
But there's more than just bluegill limits in place to help improve this lake.
And sometimes in the summer, the oxygen gets so low that we have to come out and treat it with potassium permanganate to reduce the oxygen demand and prevent a fish kill.
So other more natural efforts are being made to help the lake.
We're trying to improve the water quality by encouraging plants to grow and reducing some of the shading along the shoreline. In addition, in dropping trees into the water to reduce that shading, we're creating woody debris habitat for the fish, which we know is highly valuable. It's too early to tell if that's effective yet. We're just starting to have better success at introducing the plants, and now that we have more sunlight along the shoreline, hopefully they will expand faster, improve the water quality, make it a better situation for the fish, which in turn makes it a better situation for the fishermen.
But here, even the plants need some protection to get established.
We put up fencing around some of the plantings that we're doing. We call those exclosures because we're trying to keep turtles and waterfowl from getting in and eating the plants that we're trying to get established. We've actually done some turtle removal where we transport them to other locations.
And so far, these changes seem to be helping the lake.
We're seeing success, especially with some of the lily-like plants that we planted last year called spatterdock. We have another plant we've had in here for years. It grows well in the exclosures. Hasn't had much of a chance to spread because, again, the turtles like to feed on it, and so do the waterfowl.
Now, even though we didn't have the best of luck, the bluegill population is improving.
They have spines on them, and if you just slide your hand down the body, push the spines down.
And speaking of helpful tips,
that's how I like to hold catfish safely, because all these fins have spines, and I've got them under control. And I just simply turn the fish over, get my circle hook here, and pop that out. Fish is no worse for wear. I haven't got spined and we can turn it loose.
Walnut Point is a lake improvement process. Now, you're not going to see results overnight, but the more you help as an angler, especially by keeping smaller bluegill, the faster the lake will bounce back. Through my lens at Walnut Point State Park, this is Steve Nichols, WAND.
One other problem in this lake is the presence of flathead catfish, which have a voracious appetite for small fish. If you catch one, you are encouraged to keep it. Now, I know when we went fishing that day, we would have been lucky to catch anything.
Honestly, yeah.
We struggled so bad, but I guess if you catch those big ones, yeah, keep them for yourself.
Yeah, good for you, I guess. Trophy.
I wish you guys could have seen our faces as we were watching him pull the thing out. You and I were both like, oh.
Even when we went fishing that one time, I mean, I eventually got brave enough to unhook the fish, but man.
I didn't. You're much more brave than I am.
It took a lot of strength.